welcome to Animated Tops and Flops, where we dive into the best and worst episodes of your favorite animated series. My name is Alyssa.
And my name is Janice. We are voice actors who have a passion for cartoons and have a lot of opinions about it. So join us on our tour of Springfield as we continue our discussion of The Simpsons.
On this episode, we are going to be discussing our top, which is Season 6, Episode 9, titled Homer Badman.
And for our flop today, we are going to be discussing Season 6, Episode 3, another Simpsons clip show, rated at 5.8.
Yes. And Homer Badman is rated at a 9. Solid 9.
Solid 9.
A solid 9. Janice, give us a little synopsis about this episode.
Yeah, for sure. The episode starts out where Homer gets a ticket to the candy industry convention and brings Marge to smuggle all the free candy that they can. I find it hilarious that Bart and Lisa are sewing internal pockets to Marge's big coat to hold even more candy.
Yeah.
So Marge and Homer call a babysitter, Ashley Grant, to watch the kids, and Homer steals the Venus Gummy de Milo, which is like this very rare, fancy, gummy candy of a very famous statue, and makes it out alive after dropping a Pop Rocks and soda bomb into the middle of the mob, who starts to chase Homer out because he stole this famous gummy. Don't know what happened to Marge, but she ended up home safe, so that was good. It just didn't say anything about that. But when Homer drops off the babysitter, Ashley Grant, he finds the famous gummy on the babysitter's bum as she's getting out of the car. So he's like, candy, and goes to grab it. And when she turns around, she screams. She thinks she's being harassed. And Homer, just being completely naive, does not realize how Ashley perceived that interaction and goes on home. The next day, Ashley publicizes the act as sexual harassment, which Homer spends the rest of the episode trying to clear his name. Throughout the episode, there is a show that tries to take Homer down by misusing clips and rearranging them to make him look bad, and the whole episode is spent trying to clear his name.
Before we get into this episode, I just want to put out that this episode focuses a lot about sexual harassment, so I'm going to say this is a trigger warning in case anybody's uncomfortable with that.
Yeah. Even though The Simpsons is satire, these are still, especially over the last few years, sexual harassment has been taken more seriously, thank God.
Yes.
So it kind of, it is a bit triggering, so thank you, Alyssa, for saying that.
Always. Do we want to hear about the director and the writer?
Yeah, go ahead, girl. I was gonna ask you, and you're
I'm
listening
so
at the seams, ready to go. You're so cute. Yes.
I'm so excited. Okay, the director, Jeffrey Lynch. He's already written one of our episodes that we've already talked about. So he's done about 12 episodes of The Simpsons and 2 episodes of Futurama. Mm-hmm. Nothing too crazy. But the writer, you guys, the writer was Greg Daniels, and I cannot. I have to go straight to his IMDb because he's done far too much. And the second I tell you who he is, you're going to be like, what? So Greg Daniels was the writer for The Office. He created Parks and Recs. He created Space Force. He created Upload and wrote Upload. I mean, and he did 53 episodes of writing on Saturday Night Live.
What a resume. What an icon.
Man. I love him.
What did you particularly love about the episode and its structure then? I'm curious about this because Greg Daniels is a fantastic writer.
Fantastic.
But this episode I'm sorry to cut you off. This episode I just think hits differently today than it did when it aired. So I'm ready to hear your opinions. I'm so interested.
I did not know he wrote this until maybe 10 minutes ago. And I didn't really care for this episode. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I think what makes this episode so good is that everything that comes up in it is so relevant to today.
Mm-hmm.
which is insane to me that everything can still be so relevant, which is both like interesting and like very upsetting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that's what makes this episode as good as it is rated high as it is because even though this was aired November 27th, 1994, it still holds truth to this day, which is not good because it does talk about how people rely so heavily on the media to
Oh
give
yeah.
them their news and the story, and especially right now where AI is rampant and there's deep fakes out there and there are specific
Misinformation
all
everywhere. Like,
over the place, and it's so hard to know what's true and what isn't. And I think that this episode was trying to say something. Obviously, it was like really obviously trying to say something and tell society something.
mm.
And I think that's kind of what's beautiful about this episode is that Greg Daniels did put a mirror to society with it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And he does that a lot with his writing. I mean, especially with The Office. I mean, come
Oh,
on.
I
That's
know.
truly. When did this episode air?
Yeah,
I'm curious.
1994.
94.
Yeah.
So cancel culture wasn't even
Mm-mm.
really like a thing,
Nope.
you know?
I mean,
I
I was only 3 in 1994, so like I can't really talk about like what it was
they
like
really
in the media.
yeah. Yeah.
But I feel as though people weren't as hesitant to distrust media because it was more new,
Hmm.
and there wasn't as much of it.
Yeah, I just thought this was a really fantastic episode in terms of reflection of society as where it was then and where it is today. I mean, you articulated it so perfectly. Like, it's really hard to add on to it because, I mean, you hit the nail on the head with everything that you said, holding the mirror up to society. Uh, I just, it's just, I'll reiterate on this. It just does hit differently with, we had so many incredible movements for women and standing
Mhm.
up to their harassers, like the Believe All Women movement. I mean, that was like I could go on and on with like all the movements that happened, but it's
Mhm.
just, I mean, it hits differently. So like I have such a bittersweet relationship with this episode.
Yeah.
I think it was good writing, but does it deserve to be a 9 today?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
that's where I'm at too. Like it was well written, but it wasn't as good as I think. But it wasn't terrible, you know? Like it should ride somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Um, I gotta say though, the protesters were so freaking funny. How they were shaking his car in traffic and they followed him to work and were like, "We don't like nuclear power either." And like, I just, there were some moments, like it had some really good moments, that were just hilarious, but and it did kind of bring back the lightness of this very serious situation, and I do still think it deserves to be rated highly because of that. There
Mhm.
was just a really good balance of the dark with the light, but
Yep.
I remember we talked about an episode in earlier episodes of animated tops and flops. I think it was the Boys of Bummer, how that one was just too dark and there
Yes.
wasn't enough lightness to carry it through. This one I think had that balance that Boys of Bummer was missing, you
It
know.
did. This episode could have easily went horribly. It could have been way too cringe, and
Yeah.
Greg Daniels did write it very well balanced. You are 100% on point with that.
Yeah, and it is still cringe today. I mean, there's still cringe moments in here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But especially the end where they're like, "Didn't you learn anything, Homer?" And he's like, "No," and they all kind of like slump off. I was like, "Ugh."
I
Mm,
have that written
mm.
down. But like, isn't that very much accurate still?
I mean, yeah. Yeah, it is.
It's awful because it ends and you're like, ugh, classic Homer. But if you really look at the episode and how it is true today and remains true, the whole thing still holds up. including the ending, where
Yeah.
no matter what happens to you, when you are the victim, when you are no longer the victim, then it's like you can go back to however the way you were before. You didn't learn anything.
Exactly. So let's lighten it up just a
Let's
little bit.
yeah, Janice, tell me your
This is
favorite.
a fun podcast.
So fun. We have fun here. What is your favorite lines or moments from this episode?
I got a lot of them, I gotta say. But one of them is right in the beginning. Um, Marge is like, "Oh God, I like need something that's not sugar," and she pulls out like a celery stalk and she's chewing on it. And this guy comes up to her and he's like, "All right, ma'am, you're gonna have to put some sugar on that celery or get out, ma'am." And then there's another one. I don't know where this came from, but it just says, "I'll be cold in the deep, deep ground before I recognize Missouri."
I have
And
that on mine too.
I don't remember who said that. Who said that?
It's Grandpa. So it's when they're
Grandpa's got great quotes.
it's when they grabbed public access, right? TV,
Oh,
which
yeah.
I have written down. Does that still exist anymore? Because I couldn't tell you.
Does
But-
real television still exist? Like
Dude.
aired television? Like free television?
No. I think that's public access. They would never allow that anymore.
I don't know. I only have streaming services
I only do
now,
streaming,
like,
yeah.
which
So,
is sad. But
They grab like
anyway.
a fern and a podium and an American flag, and Grandpa's putting it up, and Marge goes, "There's only 49 stars on that flag," and then Grandpa says what he says.
Do you have any other favorite one-liners or any moments that stood out to you that were like weird or?
I will say, well, first I'm going to talk about my chalkboard gag. Obviously.
Yes, we have to.
We have to. The chalkboard gag of this episode is, "I will not whittle hall passes out of soap." And the couch gag. This is one of those couch gags that is like retained in my memory for some reason, because when I
Ooh.
saw it, I went, "Oh yeah." And it's like they're running towards the couch. You know, they run and they sit on it, but as they're running, the couch keeps moving farther and farther away, and they just keep running like infinity. And right?
I just had a discovery, but finish. I want
Oh,
you to finish
okay.
first.
It's just that, and then like a couple of other couch gags are just always in my brain. And that one, when it happened, I went, "Oh, yep, I remember that. I remember that couch gag." What is your discovery? I wanna
Okay.
hear this.
Okay, so I was holding it in this whole time. I'm like trying not to lose it. So, that's so Willy Wonka-esque, where they're walking in the room, the old one with Gene Wilder, when they're walking in the
Yes.
room and it
just
keeps
gets,
getting
like-
further and further, or it gets like, it's tighter and tighter and everything.
Mhm.
It's very Willy Wonka-esque, which is very like the start of this episode, all about the sugar convention and stuff. I was like,
Ooh,
brilliant.
interesting.
I don't know if that's the intention, but
It's Greg
brilliant.
Daniels. We're gonna say it is the intention.
I wouldn't doubt it. Okay, something I have to say of the people who stand up for Homer in the mob of protesters in front of their home:
Mm-hmm.
Mo, Lenny, Carl, Barney, which I totally get, Apu, which I get as well,
I know where you're going with this.
and then Dr. Hibbert.
Yep. Yeah, I thought that was weird too.
I was like, Dr. Hibbert? Why Dr. Hibbert? And I know that, I don't remember which season this is, but I know they have dinner episodes. They have like it's the one where Milhouse's parents separate, and they have like a dinner party, and Marge is super excited to host and everything, and like, they invite the Milhouse Van Houtens, the Van Houtens, not the Milhouse Van Houtens family. I'm like, what the heck am I saying? The Van Houtens, they invite the Lovejoys, the Flanders, and they also invite the Hibberts. So I guess that's their like cute little circle. But I just thought that was really interesting, and it's funny because Apu, I mean, like, he was in the barbershop quartet and everything, so I was like, I kind of get that too. But he's also a
Yeah.
frequent customer at the Quickie Mart.
Yeah, but there's that whole episode where like, who needs the Quickie Mart?
Oh
right?
yeah,
And like,
yes.
yeah. So like,
It's a brilliant
I
song.
can see Apu. I really
Who
can.
needs the Quickie Mart?
Now here's the tricky part.
I love it.
I can't believe that one's not up there.
And Apu has some great episodes on his own too,
Mm-hmm.
but I wish there were more of them. Like I like
Yeah.
Apu too as as a standalone character.
Yeah, and we are also very much aware that he was played by a white man.
Yes.
And
Yes,
that
it
is a
was.
big fat no-no.
Yes,
But
it is.
I still like the episodes with Apu.
Well written.
Yeah.
They're written for the character, not for the man who voices him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but don't let it happen again, Simpsons.
I don't want to happen again. Please.
But please, thank you.
Please. So, something else that I thought was just an odd way to end this episode was Willie ends up having a video to clear Homer's name. So, like, Willie likes to videotape people in their cars. It's just, and he's like, oh, Scots people like to do this. But, you know, here it's seemed as bad. And I'm like, no, I pretty much think that's bad everywhere. But, I mean, maybe that's a joke. And I'm just dense. But, I don't know. I just thought that was, like, strange.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what
It
that
felt
was.
very reaching to end the episode.
Yeah.
So that's the note that I have for Craig Daniels.
What does that
Me?
mean?
Who the hell am I to tell?
So I remember you bringing this up earlier about like the protesters following Homer around, like shaking his car, and they're in his office, and he's not really saying anything. And there's a moment where Smithers walks in and he goes like, "You can't be in here," and Homer goes, "It's okay, they're with me."
Yeah.
And there was something about that moment that even though these people are here against Homer and like pretty much attacking him, he's still like, no, it's okay. Like almost like they have a right to like say these things. I don't believe them, but like they still have the right to say these things. And Homer's like, they can stay. It's okay. Like I don't know why, but I thought that was like really big of Homer.
Is that why the Bill of Rights, though, is on his revenge list?
You know
Because
what?
he just knows he can't do anything about it, so he's like, it's okay, they have their rights, they're with me.
Oh, I bet.
Sorry, not to connect, you
No,
know, from
please
last
connect.
week's
I think
episode,
that's
but
hilarious.
I just like...
That would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, because when you listed everything on Homer's revenge list, I'm like, Bill of Rights, I mean, what? Like,
I know. But yeah, you're right. If people can say whatever they want to him, I can see how he would be upset with that.
and Springfield does exercise their right to protest quite often.
Quite often.
And usually against the Simpsons.
Usually. So. And then the other thing I thought of, because we were talking about how Bart is such a romantic.
Yes.
And there's this moment where, you know, they're trying to figure out like why these people are mad at him, and Homer's trying to like explain like, oh, she thinks I touched her butt. And Bart is like so precious because he's like, why would anyone want to touch a girl's butt? That's where cooties come from. Like, just so naive. Little precious Bart. I'm like, he don't
and then
even know.
asking those follow-up questions to understand, too,
Yeah.
right? Like, oh, what about the Coppertone dog?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know,
Like,
I thought that was kind of funny.
It is. It's funny. But it is also very much he is a kid, and he doesn't know that.
Yeah.
And that's
that
sometimes you forget that they are children because they are, especially in the later seasons, written so much like older people.
Yeah.
And you forget that they are just children.
Yeah. We are going to be pitting these episodes against each other now for our bracket. So, do you think that Homer Badman is better or worse than Homer the Great, which is the Stonecutters episode?
Ooh. If I'm going completely, like, not just bits and pieces, like, and not who wrote it, not who directed it, I would say that Homer the Great is better than Homer Badman.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. I thought Homer the Great was excellent storytelling all around. There's still some things in here that kind of don't mesh very well to, like, keep the plot moving. I mean, that they do like fill it in, like especially with the Rock Bottom TV show that reminded me of like a TMZ or a Cheaters almost.
Yeah.
And then
Gentle Ben.
Yeah. Gentle Ben. And then Willie having the video to like wrap it all up in a nice bow.
Yeah.
But I still think the Stonecutters episode was just more smooth all the way around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think because it wasn't as real, it also was better. And while I loved the writing, because I love Greg Daniels and I love his writing, I watch cartoons to get away from the world. And so when the world is like brought upon me in these cartoons, even if they're, well done and satirical and they can be funny, it's still the real world. And like a part of me kind of like resents that because I'm here to forget about everything for a little bit.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And I kind of feel the same way with Boys a Bummer versus Lisa S. That's why Boys a Bummer for me just I would even put Lisa S above Boys a Bummer, even though the storytelling was better in Boys a Bummer, but Lisa with an S. I mean, it just I don't know. It took me away from society and not in it.
Yeah.
Or like the troubles of it.
Yeah. Life's too hard right now. I don't want to think about it.
Yeah, life is rough, y'all. Like getting old sucks.
Dude.
Without much ado, again, not to get too
What a bummer.
right? And we're talking about our top too.
I know. Y'all, it is just one of those episodes.
We are now going to transition to our flop. Let's talk about season 6, episode 3, another Simpsons clip show, rated at a 5.8. So,
Janice,
yes,
hit us with the synopsis.
It's going to be real short and quick, everyone. This episode starts off with Marge reading the bridges of Madison County. And Marge decides to teach the kids a thing or two about romance by talking about some moments from their own experiences and other clips of the show, which are used as, to move the story forward. To teach Bart and Lisa a little bit about love. That's it. I mean, it's a clip show. So the story is just Marge is really overcome by the romance of Bridges of Madison County and gives a really poor example of her idea of romance, which is almost cheating on her husband. And Homer also has a really poor example of romance through an almost affair with a colleague. So, I mean, they chose some really interesting clips to support romance. But they do end the episode with a bunch of clips with, Homer and Marge enjoying each other and being intimate and really showing love and affection and romance. So it all ties together. Alyssa, would you like to talk to us about the directors and writers of this episode?
I forgot to write these down.
That's okay. The director is David Silverman of Monsters, Inc. and other notable credits. So an interesting thing about the writers of this episode is that what I have read and what IMDb trivia facts have told me is during the early years of the show, the staff was forced by Fox Network into doing clip shows to save money. There was originally intense pressure on the producers of the show to create extra episodes in each season, and the plan was to make 4 clip shows per season to meet that limit. Writers and producers, however, felt that this many clip shows would alienate fans of the series. 100% correct.
Yep.
The Fox Network's reasoning was that the clip shows cost half of what a normal episode costs to produce, but they could sell syndication rights at full price. Let me just say, after reading that, ew.
Corporate America.
This is why art dies and why artists are, limited. It's just, it sucks. Like, your show is doing incredible. You're making a legend for yourselves, and you're just creating a legacy for yourselves. I mean, off of these shows. And why would you want to stop that by limiting your creators by forcing clip shows? 4 clip shows in a season? I would quit that season. That's way too much.
That's
way too much.
It's because these people aren't looking at it like an artist. They're looking at it like a business.
Well, even look at it as a viewer. Do you really want to sit through clip shows for The Simpsons? Like, no, we race home after school and after our extracurriculars and work to see what the next episode is, not to watch reruns of a show that's still going.
If there's one thing I learned about living in corporate America is that they don't care about you or your feelings. They are only in it for themselves.
Ugh.
So I'm sure a lot of people were like, nobody's going to watch it. People are going to be mad. But it doesn't matter because they aired it anyway. And they still
Yeah,
got that money. And The Simpsons is still going strong.
that is true. But they did get away with one episode this season.
They did.
They did. But at least the writers, like, okay, the writers, sneaky little bastards, they threw in, like, apologies throughout the episode of, like, oh, we're just living and, I have a quote. Hold on.
Mm-hmm.
Lisa says, romance is dead. It was acquired in a hostile takeover by Hallmark and Disney, homogenized, and sold off piece by piece. So this quote in and of itself has been used in case studies of the cultural representation of organizations.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a direct reflection of what Fox did to these writers. And we would not have that had we not had clip shows, but at the same time, this is what happens. Your artist will hold up that mirror,
Mm-hmm.
as we were talking about, and say, hey, screw you. Like,
Yeah.
we'll do what we can, but screw you. Like,
yeah. John Vitti, who's the writer of this episode, he actually credited himself under a pseudonym called Pennywise, because he didn't want to be credited for writing this. Like, he didn't want his name on it. Let's get into favorite moments or notable moments from this episode.
okay, I will say I am so biased for this episode. Ralph loves Lisa, or I'm sorry, I keep wanting to say Lisa loves Ralph or Ralph loves Lisa is the episode's name. It's my favorite episode. Lisa breaks Ralph's heart. And we have the famous choo 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 choose me clip. It's my favorite episode, and I was just so excited to see it in there. Lisa's like, I got a story, and then it goes back into the episode's recollection of, like what happened, and I love that so much. And I wasn't mad about the clips that they did choose, though. Like, they were all decent clips.
Yeah.
I also want to say, because we talked about this in a previous episode, see, Smithers and Burns is a romantic relationship. It is a romantic relationship, even though it's one-sided. That's his fantasy. That is romance. Smithers is a helpless romantic. Smithers loves Burns.
He loves him so much.
He loves him. But yeah, that was another thing that I was like, I'm not mad about seeing that clip again. It fits perfectly. The clips that they did choose were decent, especially towards the end. The first two stories of Marge and Homer, though, I was like, talking about their almost infidelities, I was like, okay,
Right?
why did we go there first? But it did lighten up at the end. And again,
Yeah.
that contrast.
Yeah, and I wonder if the writers did that on purpose. Like, let's pick, like, the ones that make these characters look bad.
Yeah.
Because if we're gonna have to do this, like, we're gonna fucking tank it, so they never want to ask us to do this again.
Yeah. That, I never thought of that. But I don't think it's in them to do that. Like, they're creatives,
Yeah.
It's still their voice, their art, and
Yeah, that's
they
fair,
got some
that's
digs
fair.
in there.
That's fair. You're right. Okay, chalkboard gag of this episode is I will not use a brev, which is the abbreviation of abbreviation. The couch gag, however, is fucking horrible. And apparently it was used in another episode. Couldn't tell you which one, but it's just them. They sit down on the couch and like a giant foot steps on them and you hear a farting sound. I know. I'm like, that feels very lazy. But if they were just stealing it from like a different episode, maybe it worked better in the other episode. Couldn't tell you which one it was, though.
Yeah. I guess it's also a little symbolic, too, if you think about it.
Oh, yeah, I guess you're right.
Fox Network's foot crushing
them?
their world.
Ooh, well, now I like it.
Maybe that's a reach, but
I'm going to say that that's what
I
it
think,
was.
yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I'm gonna lean on that thought.
There was a flashback at the beginning when they were trying to figure out, like, before they get into Marge's story and Homer's story. And it's just montages of Moe repeating things that Bart has said on the phone to try, like, Seymour
That I
Black.
live for.
I
That I
was
live for.
dying. I'm like, this is all I want is just this over and like just all of these one
Yeah,
after the other, and it just
because
kept.
this is before YouTube compilations too,
Yeah.
right? So this was our like original YouTube compilation in this episode. So I also enjoyed
It
that.
was so good. And then the second one that came after that was a montage of just Homer going like, donut. And then it just kept being like weirder and weirder. He's like, something. And I don't know, montages, I love a good montage.
Yeah. Especially when they build like that. Like at one
Mhm.
point, Mo was just saying, "I'm a fat, stupid person who is lonely." Blah blah blah.
And it's like, because before that, it's like Amanda hugging Kiss, Seymour Butts. That is I'm alone and fat and stupid and smelly here.
Oh my god, he's got some great moments.
That was probably my favorite part of this episode. That was those montages.
Any other callouts for this episode? There's not really
Um,
too much to go over because it's a clip
yeah.
episode, you know.
I will say I didn't realize that the first two episodes were previous episodes. I didn't remember them, especially Marge's story. I don't remember that episode at all.
Oh really?
Yeah. And then the one with Homer's coworker, I vaguely remember it because I remember her.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, I must just remember her from this episode. And then when they showed the Choo Choo Choose You, I was like, oh my God, these are clips of different episodes that have already happened. And I felt so stupid because I didn't understand that that's what it was. I thought these were just like clips of that because it worked.
Mm-hmm.
They could have just stood alone with those clips and not actually been real episodes. However, like we would have lost so much with the Choo Choo Choose You episode if it was just those moments.
Oh yeah.
But I think that while it is very annoying to have to do these clip shows, I think people that like me who have maybe not seen The Simpsons in a long time or have never seen The Simpsons, and like these are good ways to kind of like get into that again because you can see a little
That's
bit
fair.
of those episodes. And it's like a little moose bouche,
Yeah. That's a very fancy way of putting that. I like that.
Thanks.
Yeah.
What about you? Do you have any final thoughts or like final favorite moments or?
No, I think I pretty much hit everything. It's just, again, it's really sad that, like, the network was really pressuring the writers to do this and to save money. Like, to save on what? You're making a killing.
Yeah.
People watch The Simpsons. You have two air slots, 6 p.m. and 10:30. Like, that's prime, like, you get them, like, after they come home and then before they go to bed. Like,
Yeah.
I don't understand what their issue was. Just poor management on their part if they're running
Yeah.
out of money. I mean, I don't want to Google this right now, but I'm sure we could Google like what the CEO's net worth was back in the day.
I don't.
And yeah,
billions.
I just don't even care to look.
No, because it makes me feel like a nothing. People that have more money than anyone could possibly need in their lifetime don't make sense to me. Like, what are you doing with it? Nothing.
Yeah, truly nothing except for, I don't know, robbing your viewers.
Yeah, except
your
trying
company
to get more money. Like,
Yeah, it doesn't make sense
I'll
to me.
never understand that.
But they make some great digs at Fox Network throughout their series. I mean, The Simpsons has the best network digs on Fox. Yeah, so kudos to them. They always find a way.
Yeah, they're good sports.
Okay, so Alyssa, if you were to pit this episode against the Nightmare After Christmas, what would you put in front of the other? What would make it to the next round?
I would put this episode in front of The Nightmare After Christmas. Absolutely.
Very good.
I just think that even though that these are pretty much already episodes, it's nice to me because it's like a little bit of like a nostalgia, like a nostalgia sampler. Because this is like the first time I'm really watching The Simpsons since I was young and like watched it at the 6 p.m. time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So getting the chance to sort of see these bits and pieces of all these different episodes was like really nice to me and made me go, oh, like I want to rewatch that episode and I wanna be able to see all of Moe's stupid phone calls again. And I think it deserves to be rated a little bit higher also than a 5.8.
Yeah. I definitely agree. Like I think this could go like 6 even, you know? I feel
Mm.
like that would be a fair rating for this.
Mm-hmm.
And I would also definitely put this above the Christmas episode
Yeah.
because that had two subplots as their main plot and then a subplot that
Yeah.
killed but was overshadowed by two very evenly distributed plot lines, and it was too much for the Simpsons. I mean, you have such short episodes. It's like what,
Yeah.
15 minutes total of airtime. Like, we need something simple, easy to follow, and something maybe like that complements that or
Yes.
contrasts it very well. But when you have too much going on, it's too much.
Yeah.
So yeah, and of course I'm also a little bit biased because I love Lisa Breaks Ralph's Heart. So
I mean,
I would put this above.
I get really excited when I saw that in here. I was like, Janice.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love it so much.
That was so cute. Okay, so do you, the audience, agree or disagree with these ratings or our bracket ratings?
Yeah.
Please let us know what your thoughts are on the bracket because not only are we taking to what we think, but also what y'all think into consideration.
You could change our minds too.
Please, we would
Like, we
love
will
that.
read the comments. Like, change our minds if you feel very passionately. Like, no, I think the Christmas episode totally deserves to be above the clip show.
Mhm.
Let us know. You
Yeah,
can change our minds.
yeah. You can change anyone's minds. You can
Of
do it.
course. With a podcast, you could do anything.
All right, let's see what's going on in our next episode.
Yeah. What are we talking about?
Gonna grab my doodad. Ooh, okay, so next week we will be discussing our top, which is season 7, episode 7, King Size Homer, and our flop, season 25, episode 19, What to Expect When Bart's Expecting. And Janice,
Yes.
that's gonna be our first episode with a guest.
Yay! Are we going to announce it now or are we going to keep it
Ooh.
to ourselves and announce on socials?
Ooh, we're gonna keep it to ourselves.
Okay.
It'll be a surprise.
We love a surprise.
Yes, but get excited. It'll be our very first guest. And I think it'll be fun.
It's going to be so much fun. I mean, the more the merrier, truly. As
Truly.
cheesy as it sounds, the more the
Yeah.
merrier. So, very excited.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right. Well, you know what to do. Subscribe, hit the bell if you haven't already so you can be notified when we upload new videos. And, of course, comment, fight with us respectfully. Tell us your opinions. You could change our minds. And as always, smell you later.